Yeah, so it's Cybertech, and having said that, we're discussing payments. So I will try to connect payments, cyber, and for those of you who are here from the morning, first of all, I admire you. Second, you maybe remember Nadav Tzafrir made his presentation, and his last slide was, let's talk about the bear in the room. So I will start talking about the bear in the room, and some of you can guess what it is. But just one word about the company. We built this company with mission of creating the world of trust. Or in other words, there is a very complex world of traditional payments and distributed payments and decentralized finance. And we want to make a world where you can absolutely trust each and every transaction. Now, how many of you try to transfer money internationally? Can you raise your hands? Wow, so many rich people in this room. So, was it easy, by the way? Did it take you like 5 seconds and seamless? Or exactly, the bank made you crazy, tried to ask you more questions, fill more forms, etc. I will tell you why it's happening, what we need to do to make it not happen, and I will also mention SWIFT, sanctions, and I will try to do everything in 10 minutes. So first of all, in order to transfer money, what we really want is to make the transaction be seamless, fast, and trusted. And in 1973, the problem of trust was solved. So if you are in 1973 and you're willing to take 3 to 5 working days to transfer money, then you're in a very good situation. By the way, I'm doing this presentation for a while. Most of the people didn't know what SWIFT is. Today, my 93-year-old father knows what SWIFT is because everybody talks about disconnecting countries from SWIFT network. We'll discuss it. So if you don't know what it is, you will get out of this presentation when you know exactly what it is, and you can discuss the dinner table what SWIFT is. But anyway, in digital era, we want to make sure the transactions are fast, are seamless, and those bad guys that are not supposed to use the world of transactions can be sanctioned and eliminated. For those of you coming from the cyber domain, you're probably familiar with the way data flows. I have a secret for you. Money flows exactly the same way. So if you try to transfer money from, let's say, Israel to the Emirates, and by the way, we are the first, and as far as I know, the only Israeli company that following Abraham Accords, Emirati bank bought our solution. It's called Mashrek Bank, the best bank in the Middle East. If you want to transfer money, it's not that you push in a button and the money will reach Mr. Ahmed in Dubai immediately. It's actually a very long way. So it will go to your branch in Bank Hapoalim, Bank Leumi, or whatever. Then it will go to a central branch. Then it will go to a correspondent account of another bank, maybe Citi or Santander. Santander is also our customer. And then it will go to central branch, will go to Abu Dhabi, probably to Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank, and then it will go to Mashrek Bank, central branch, and then it will go to the right branch, and then Mr. Ahmed will receive the transaction. But how do you know that, or how the bank in Israel knows that that recipient is the right person? They don't. This problem was solved in the world of cybersecurity, not yet in the world of finance. Now, if it's a mistake, it can be terrorist funding, it can be human trafficking funding, it can be sanctions. And if you do it against the sanction list or the regulations, it's called money laundering, and then it's fine in best case scenario. In worst case scenario, it's jail for a very long time. Every year, about $1 to $2 trillion being laundered. I believe that following the sanctions and disconnect of Russia from SWIFT, the number will be even higher. But even today, $37 trillion, which is the size of cross-border payments, and 80+% of it, it's wire transfers. So people don't use cash anymore. It's all electronic. Real dollars don't move from one place to another. By the way, real printed paper dollars, it's much less than the actual dollar amount that move in between banks. And of course, it creates an ideal world for bad guys that would like to steal money. Last Cybertech, before COVID, had the pleasure to host a panel of heads of law enforcement agencies all around the world, and they all agreed that the best the best crime is financial cybercrime. You steal money, nobody can catch you. Again, now it becomes even more important because there are sanctions and there are bad guys that would like to circumvent those sanctions. So the pain points today of the existing payment banking system is that it's very slow, very expensive, huge number of false alerts. Every time bank calls you and says, look, your transaction was flagged, can you please give us more information? It's false alarm. It makes you crazy, it makes banks crazy. It's still done manually, or 60% of those transactions and analysis is done manually, and it's definitely been manipulated by criminals, by bad guys, by governments, and of course, when we talk about the newly Russian-Ukraine-related sanctions and the idea of disconnecting bad guys, it becomes even more important. So how do we solve the problem? Actually, we said let's solve it in a very different way. First of all, a few words about SWIFT and why, when you read newspapers, you will see that people say that sanctions will not really affect financial situation of oligarchs. Why they call the disconnect of SWIFT a nuclear option. So the point is that today, SWIFT, which is a pretty old system, is very easy to hack. All you need to do is just to send the originating name. For example, if I want to impose a sanction and I say somebody whose name is X, the bear in the room, and the country is Y, if there's a name matching, you cannot transfer a transaction. Or I can say I disconnect SWIFT connection between banks. By the way, SWIFT, do you know what SWIFT is? So maybe I will say one word. SWIFT is like a old telephone system. Basically, it's a network that allows banks to speak with each other. So if I tell some other bank I'm sending money and I'm a bank as well, they consider the money being transferred, although it was just a conversation. So I can disconnect the entire country from SWIFT. That's why it's called a nuclear version or nuclear option, because it basically it destroys everything, destroys everybody. Yes, it does punish bad guys, and I will tell you in a second which is why it's not really accurate, but it definitely punishes everybody. And there are a lot of good guys. There are many people that we love here in Israel that came out of Russia or Ukraine. They cannot transfer money to their relatives, their parents, their friends, in both countries. It's painful. And we want to make sure that we create a situation where good guys can transfer money in spite of all those financial cybersecurity threats, and bad guys will be punished. Because if you think about it, the people with the power are not really affected by disconnect from SWIFT, because all they can do is to open some shell company in another country that does have connection, in this case to Russia, and then suddenly they could transfer all the money through that shell account. The name will be different, the country will be different, and the money will flow. So the current situation actually punishes the good guys and makes bad guys not really being affected. We developed a totally different system, deployed in the largest banks in the world already. The largest fintechs of the world are using Israeli-based technology, and as I mentioned, even the banks in the UAE. And it works in a way that is very similar to those systems that you see in the airports that scan your bags. So the goal is to make sure that the money flows. There is no disruption, like suitcases, bags, they just flow. And there is a system that scans them. The system doesn't care what is your name, because everybody in the world of security understands that you can take a bag with a bomb, give it to somebody else, or replace bags, and people don't even know about it. And when they ask you, did somebody give you something to transfer, 100% of you will say no, even though you got something or you bought something. And they will look at the suitcase and they will inspect the suitcase. That's what we do. We don't care who is the sender. We inspect the transactions. It's called transaction monitoring, very similar to what Checkpoint did to the world of security 20 years ago. We're doing it right now. And of course, in order to do it, we need to have very deep level of AI to catch bad guys who are extremely smart. We talk about governments, etc. So we use something that we call AI Square, artificial intelligence intuition. It's basically a system that mimics human intuition. It allows our system to act in a way that is very similar to experts that sometimes are working in the bank for 50 years. Now, for us human beings, it's very easy. We're all familiar with the situation where we say, look, something doesn't smell right. Are you familiar? Like you come to a place, you say, look, something doesn't smell right, something is not right here. That's something that historically people believe computers will not be able to do. Our technology does it, but it's better than human beings because then we can explain why we found something suspicious. So bottom line, it's great value for customers. Our customers who are the best banks in the world, the biggest fintechs in the world, increase the revenues, improve customer satisfaction, reduce the cost of compliance. At the end of the day, they do more business because they can serve more customers, and they still reduce the risk. That's a quote by one of our customers that said that we brought them back the trust and allowed them to increase revenues and spot business opportunities, and actually to serve customers that historically could not have been served. So we're also bringing digital inclusion and digital financial inclusion to the world and making the world a better place. So just to finalize, we serve a very fast-growing market with innovative technology. Very lucky to have very large customers, but also a fintech world that is growing extremely fast. And this trust component is a critical component of the financial systems. And just before I finish, when we first introduced this technology, people told us, guys, like, do you really give machines the ability to think like human beings? Common sense, gut feelings, intuition, isn't it dangerous? Right? Maybe machines will replace us human beings. So I can tell you that I found that any new technology is scary. When print was created, people said, that's it. That's the end of human memory. We don't need to remember anything. There is print. When telephone was created, people said, that's it. We don't need to visit each other. It's an end of social life because we can make a phone call. I had the pleasure to be one of the co-founders of NetVision, which is the internet service provider in Israel. And everybody told me, look, Mark, once internet is there, your kids will not speak the same language with you. My daughter is here, she doesn't speak the same language as I do. So it's true, any new technology creates threats. But on the other hand, we don't have any choice because bad guys using AI already, and you will see more of advanced use of AI following the sanctions that will be imposed. So we don't have any choice. We as human beings, if we want to protect our systems, and I think we all agree that financial system is the blood that makes the world work, we need to use the most advanced AI. And it's every day it's great to work in a company that I love, but actually in these days it's also great to work in a company that helps to protect the good guys and helps to punish the bad guys and make a world a better place. So thank you very much.